Om Namah Shivaya. Verse 32. There is nothing as this apart from Brahman. Verily, there is nothing as this apart from Brahman. There never is anything apart from the Self. I am indeed the Self. There is no doubt of this. This signifies everything experienced. None of it has any existence apart from Brahman. What is the this in your experience? Thought of as this, it really has no existence apart from Brahman, which is ever-existent and without another. If you inquire to discern reality, you will find there is no this aspect. The entire sense of it is real belongs to Brahman alone. There has never been really the least objective thing. Brahman is the existence, apart from which nothing exists. There never is anything apart from the self. For whom is the anything? What is the self if nothing is apart from it? The self is partless being. Indivisible consciousness. What is the self if nothing is apart from it? It must be something that transcends all definition in terms of the body and mind. It must transcend the dualism of I and this. It must be nondual and undifferentiated. The self is thus indeed Brahman, apart from which there is no other kind of self. There is no doubt of this, for this doubtless knowledge is certain. What is the certitude of your existence? And can Brahman have a doubt of itself? The doubt, I am not the self, does not occur for the self. And the self, being Brahman, cannot have anything other to it. For there is never anything apart from the self. I am indeed the self. Free of the misidentification as this. Free of confusion regarding reality as this. What are you? Indeed, only the self. And there is no doubt of this. You have never doubted your existence. Existence never doubts itself. This is true eternally. Verse 33. Apart from the self, there is no happiness. Apart from the self, I do not exist either. I am devoid of grasping or anything to be grasped, devoid of renunciation or anything to be renounced. What is the source of happiness? What is its cause? Or perhaps it is causeless. When happiness shines forth, What is the nature of that source? From where does happiness come? That which knows, that which is that source. Apart from the existence, which is the self, there is no other existence. Apart from the consciousness, which knows all that is known, there is no other knowledge, no other consciousness. Likewise, apart from the ananda, bliss of the self, there is no happiness. Yet the happiness of the self is always full and is indestructible. Therefore, if there is knowledge of the self, then happiness shines forth unhindered, unveiled. You yourself are the happiness which you have always yearned for. So to abide happily, know yourself. Apart from the self, I do not exist either. Who am I? This should be inquired into. This should be realized. Apart from the self, which is already established as Brahman, you have no other existence. There is no second kind of I. The only I that actually is the absolute Brahman. The only I there actually is the self. Seek to know yourself with non-objective knowledge. Thereby ignorance disappears, and ignorance alone makes one think the happiness is elsewhere, when it is actually one's only self. I am devoid of grasping or anything to be grasped. By grasping, attachment is referred to. If there is confusion regarding the source and nature of happiness, attachment will follow. And attachment, being a form of ignorance, yields suffering. It gives the illusion of bondage. But Ribhu declares, I am devoid of grasping or anything to be grasped. The attachment is not a reality. It is only delusion, illusion. Devoid of anything to be grasped. That is, no object, whether gross or subtle, whether perceived by the senses or conceived in thought. Devoid of grasping or anything to be grasped. Your happiness is secure if only you know yourself for what you truly are. Likewise, are you devoid of renunciation or anything to be renounced? If we have become accustomed to thinking our happiness is in objects, then we can speak of renunciation, or that which is to be renounced. But where there is neither birth nor creation, no object of any kind, how can we speak of renunciation or anything to be renounced? If you are bound, most certainly renounce. But are you bound? If something else could bind you, there is the need for renunciation. But what binds you? And who are you that are bound? Verse 34. So the attachment and the renunciation. You must renounce
And then you talked about inquiry. So is that inquiry, does that contain the detachment in it? The mere fact that you can inquire would sort of imply that the detachment has happened. Instead of worrying about attachment, detachment. It was interesting that you discussed self-inquiry. So that's why I was asking that question. Because sometimes I get confused. I think, okay, there's something real, an attachment, because I get confused. I get attached.
To what do you get attached? What confuses you?
Oh, thinking,
Are you attached to your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think that
By what means do they adhere to you?
Yeah. Only if they're not inspected.
So if you are inquiring, truly inquiring, the necessary complete detachment is implicit.
Yeah, okay. Sometimes it seems like that, like it's clear. And sometimes it seems confused, like too many attachments, reality is external. I don't always know the difference. Like sometimes I sit to meditate and there's an attitude present. I don't know what created that attitude, that sharp discrimination, that sharp inquiry. I don't know always what is that factor. But sometimes I feel like it's there. And my mind, it's easy to discriminate. Easier, I should say.
Yes, when you discriminate, that is, when you actually inquire, the inquiry goes better, doesn't it?
Yeah, no question.
It works if you use it.
I don't know what sometimes I'm confused. What makes that difference, though, between...
What is the nature of he who gets confused?
Okay.
Attachment is not an attribute of you. It consists of imagination, ignorance. It does not belong to the self. But if you think it does belong to the self, and then you, through further ignorance, adhere to it, there is attachment. There is seeming bondage. Yet if you inquire, there's not the least bit of that. to be detached, to be renounced. Inquire. You will find that nothing touches your nature. This is the non-clinging or detachment referred to.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Verse 34. There is nothing to renounce for me, nor is there anything to acquire. There is no bondage, nor is there anything that can offer liberation. No world exists for me, and there is nothing inferior, nothing superior, and nothing adverse or detracting. For one who is entangled in the illusion of samsara, renunciation is needed. But as the self transcends the entire illusion, the entire samsara, what has it got to renounce? Nor is there anything to acquire. The self's nature is the perfect fullness. It is just innately so, and nothing needs to be added to what you are, if you know indeed what you are. To the self, nothing is added. From the self, nothing is subtracted. Bondage is an illusion that is the product of ignorance. There is no bondage in reality. Nor is there anything that can offer liberation, because what other thing could give you what is yours? Nothing can give you yourself. And liberation is simply the self as it is, being, just being. That existence or being is always free. Inquiring whose is it, this bondage, you find that there's no such thing as being bound. That liberation is just existence as existence is. No world exists for me. If you are a body endowed with senses, there appears to be a world, which, as he has already said, is not apart from the self. If you realize your bodiless nature, transcendent of the senses and their objects, what world is there? Are you the body? If you were a body and the world were real, then we can think that some things that are experienced are inferior, some are superior, some are adverse, some detract, etc. But if you know reality, devoid of these qualities, superior, inferior, etc., there is just one undifferentiated existence, invariable, that always is, just as it is. It is immeasurable and incomparable. Nothing can be contrasted with it. Nothing can be compared with it. Verse 35. There is no strength for me. There are no outcasts for me, nor are there castes such as Brahmans. No protection exists for me. There is nothing short for me, nothing weak for me, and no strength for me. There is no strength for me. Strength is measured on the qualities of the body, or of the prana, or of the mind. But no such attributes define you, the real self. Likewise, outcasts, Brahmins, any other similar division in society. None of that applies to yourself. None of that is you. No protection exists for me. There is nothing short or insignificant for me. There is nothing short for me, nothing weak for me, and no strength for me. Again, all these are qualities belonging to the body and such. Cease to misidentify with the body. Cease to regard its attributes, its states or conditions as yours. Then, of what would you be ignorant? By what would you be bound? Verse 36. There is no power for me, no enjoyment for me, no destiny for me, and no separateness for me. Being only Brahman, I am nothing apart from eternality. If there is the individual and something other than the individual for the individual to know about, then we can speak of power. Where there is only one without a second, and that one is infinite and eternal. How could we speak of power? That which is thought of as power is known clearly by inquiry to be only peace. No enjoyment for me. Happiness abides in itself, knows itself, for happiness is the self. The self has no objects of enjoyment. It needs neither the senses nor the intellect, nor anything objectively existing in the world for its happiness. No enjoyment can also be understood as meaning no experience. If you appear to experience anything experienced, find out for whom is that. No destiny for me. As long as the individuality is conceived, one regards oneself as an individual entity. then there can be talk of destiny. But where there is neither I nor this, neither an experiencer nor an object of experience in this world, there is no destiny. For that which is beginningless and endless, there is no destiny. Know yourself as that, and be free of destiny. And there is no separateness for me. No I, no this. Nothing separate by itself. Nothing separate from Brahman. No separate thing as the world. No separate entity as the ego. Inseparable from itself. Such is your nature. Being only Brahman, I am nothing apart from eternality. In the knowledge of the one and only self, as being eternal, is found immortal bliss. Om Namah Shivaya.